the art they create, especially if it's art they can relate to, I think it's better art.
I'm sitting here with Gary Rohn, and he's a local artist here. He just gave us a good explanation, or kind of explaining folk root, and a lot of it starts out when we're kids, right? Did it start out for you when you were a kid?
Well, let me just say that's my opinion. A lot of people have different opinions on what folk art is, and so I'm definitely not an expert or an authority. You know,
as a child, were you dabbling in art?
Well, I'm the youngest of 4 children, and I had a hard time competing with my siblings in different ways, especially 2 of my 3 siblings were older brothers. So I was trying to compete with them, and I found that art was really the only area that I excelled more than my brothers. So I pursued that. Luckily, I had parents and teachers and other people in my life that were very encouraging, especially at a young age. And so I found that was where I found my own voice in a family where, many times the youngest in the family feels neglected. And I found a way for me to stand out from my brothers, which I was almost always competing with. So just a regular family type of thing. But that's where the art came from, was I was looking for what I could do, where my talent was, and that's where I found it, so I went after it.
Where can they actually see some of your art? And then we'll continue with an interview. So if they want to flip right now, this is multimedia.
I'm on Facebook. That's probably where I'm most active. I know a lot of the younger crowds using some other platforms, but I just haven't felt the need to dabble in a whole lot of other social media. So I'm on Facebook, and I have a lot of videos of me actually creating paintings and art in virtual reality and illustrations and different things I do on I have a YouTube page as well. The YouTube is under Stillwater Design Solutions. That's the name of my business. And my website is stillwater-designs.com. So I've got a lot of different information and examples on there. But probably my social media would be the easiest way to see a lot of my work.
Is it Gary Rohn on Facebook then?
Yes.
Or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is on Facebook. It's just under my personal name.
Let's describe this piece right here. So we've got a hillbilly doing something in the picking park, I think.
Yeah. That is called the Crazy Blue-Eyed Fiddler. I grew up admiring a lot of the old school T-shirt art. A lot of them were hot rods with these crazy characters driving the hot rods, and there's flames and smoke, and that influenced me a lot when I was young. And so this is kind of a play off of that style of art where things are exaggerated and kind of over the top, but I still try to keep it tongue-in-cheek. I try to keep it light enough that it's not offensive or gruesome or anything like that. But this fella here, so with that approach, this fella here is at the picking park. That was what I was trying to depict here, even though it's not totally accurate. I was just going for that feel. But he's playing a fiddle with, you'd assume a group of people over there at the picking park, and the leg on the chair is breaking, and he's flipping back, and his shoes are flying off. So, he's all happy and grinning, and that was fun. I love doing that kind of art. It's definitely my style.
I think I saw that guy over there because his beard goes down to his feet.
There's a lot of things about the character in that painting that really are relating more to myself, with the bloodshot eyes and the messed up teeth, and that's more me. The gray hair, that's more me than anything.
Is that your fiddle?
I don't know how to play fiddle.
Well, that's how usually people start.
Maybe someday, but
maybe someday.
Who knows? God does cool stuff.
That's right. Did you have this titled?
Mm-hmm. It's called The Crazy Blue-Eyed Fiddler.
Crazy Blue-Eyed Fiddler.
Yep.
And you can see that at Gary Rohn Facebook. Do you do commission stuff?
Oh, that's pretty much everything I do. It's just most of the commissions I do are for apparel. I don't do a whole lot of painting commissions, but I hope to grow that side of the business eventually, because I enjoy painting a lot. it's one of those things where when I start painting, I lose track of time, and it's nothing for several hours to go by before I realize that several hours that it's late at night and I need to go to bed.
Yes.
But it's the painting is something that I wish I could do more of. I haven't done many commissions painting, but I'd like to do more of that. Most of the commission work I do is for apparel, simply because I've been doing that since even before computers. I started in apparel, doing hand-drawn illustrations on apparel back in 1987, and that was actually my first job. I was hired because I could draw, and that was the very first job I got in high school.
Some other paintings here. You can stop by KWMV and see some of these. We've got some that really highlight the working hands of the Ozarks, I think. But just generally, can you kind of describe that?
It's really more focusing on the hands of people that have lived hard lives, country folks, people that fend for themselves, that make their own way, that grow their own food and mind their own business, I guess you could put it that way. But I grew up around a lot of these people that were very self-sufficient, and they always had plenty of stories, and I would go out in the garden with Grandpa and help pick the tomatoes. I would sit on the front porch with Grandma while she's shelling her peas, and hear stories, and me and my wife both would share those stories, and I felt like it was important for me to at least do what I could to capture some of those things in my own way. Not too many people are capturing the old ways and the old things much anymore, and I'm trying to do what I can to preserve that.
Absolutely. And many of us have those stories with Grandma and Grandpa, or even my mom having the kids come out and do some of this work, sitting on the porch or actually sitting in the garden, and there are many homesteaders, there are many folks that do that as just a hobby, but these people, you can tell by looking at their hands, they had a rough life, and they're not just doing this for fun.
A lot of wrinkles, a lot of calluses, a lot of scars, a lot of liver spots, a lot of just everything that comes with using your hands for decades. I mean, a lot of people these days don't have enough of appreciation for just how hard life was just a few decades ago for most people. Things have changed a lot just in the past 30, 40 years. So
absolutely. And here in Mountain View, things move slow. So there's a lot of folks that, if you look in the backyard, say we'll have gardens, and they are picking tomatoes and sharing their wealth.
That's part of why we moved here, because we saw that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful town, Mountain View, the folk music capital of the world, but also folklore. And I think this kind of reflects the folklore and the history, and you were dealing with that, even though you weren't here in Mountain View necessarily in your mind when you were creating these. There are so many people just like this. And if you want to see some of that, you can stop by the Folk Center. Have you been out there at all?
Not yet.
So you need to get out there, because you'll really appreciate like the village, the craft village, and
I certainly have a desire to get out there. I just haven't had the opportunity yet. It's one of those things that I know that if I go, I'll want to spend all day, because that's just the way that I am. I like to absorb things as much as I can, and so I wouldn't want to be rushed. So I've got to pick the right time. But yes, we definitely, me and my wife especially, want to go out there.
Now, what have you been doing the last 4 years? How did things change from when you got here to now, as far as the art? Well,
the art, the apparel art being the core of my business, that has stayed fairly steady. But of course, just like everyone else, the economy is affecting things, and inflation, and my business is predicated on a lot of the tourism industry, and retail sales. So the things that affect those markets affect my business pretty directly. So in lieu of a lot of the illustration art, I've been doing a lot more painting, especially these ones I've been doing more here lately that are a little quicker. I've been giving myself more of a time limit and saying I only want to spend an hour or two on something. So it kind of forces me to not be so precise as I am. And some of these paintings you have here in the studio are very detailed and very precise, and I'm trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone and do art that's a little more loose, a little more free, and I like the results. So that's really where I've been going with the painting.
I think your wife noticed a difference too. You really enjoy doing this freestyle.
Yes, definitely. Her reaction after I did the first couple paintings was just a confirmation in what I already kind of felt inside, which was I was finding my artistic voice, my artistic direction, and I'm not sure if the majority of what I'll do will stay in that style. I'm kind of all over the place. I do a lot of different things. So the paintings are what I love the most, but that isn't always what God tells you need to do. So I'm trying to just be a good son, and if He makes it so that I can paint, I love to paint. But if I got to do other things, I'm gonna try my best not to complain and just do them.
You were just out at the OK Corral Trading Post out there, the horseback riding facility out there. Mm-hmm. They got 60 horses. That's a homestead. You saw.
Oh yeah,
the porch,
that was great. I thought it was
porch.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Was that inspiring, or do you have some ideas?
Oh yes, definitely. Now that was my first visit out there, but not just the sounds. But the smells, the atmosphere, the people, I walked back into where they have all the tack and everything back in the back side of the gift shop, and that's just it reminded me of so many times that I was going with family or friends, to get supplies or whatever, or visit these different places, and man, it is just really nice out there. Everybody was just great, very friendly, very easy to talk to, and boy, that porch they got just makes you want to sit down and not move for a while.
That's one thing about Gary Rohn. He really does care about the community, and he's reaching out and doing his part in preserving and presenting this location, this folk music capital.
Part of the reason why my family moved here in 2020 was specifically because of the people and the culture that this town and this area is trying to preserve, and that's one thing that I hope doesn't get affected too much by the modern world. The culture and the music and the people and the stories and the folklore and everything that's right here is what makes Mountain View unique, where you come for a unique experience, and I that's part of what drew me here, and I hope that remains. I hope that's preserved.
And that is something that Jimmy Driftwood, he pointed out. He says, we're not just here to jar this folklore and folk music and put it on a shelf. It's a living thing, that folk music and folk art and this subculture kind of feel. Well, it used to be the norm across the country. Mm-hmm. The nuclear family, the consistent civil and responsibility, common sense.
That's what I was about to say. There was a lot more common sense. There was a lot more people that knew right from wrong, good from bad, and it wasn't so much of a gray area. People were brought up to know one way or another, and the things that were old, I'm starting to see are becoming new again. I'm actually noticed more of a resurgence in the past few years of people that are homesteading and people that are choosing a more simple lifestyle, and that's encouraging to me. I hope that continues.
Yeah, I think it's all about the community, and I just thought of like one of the biggest platforms in the Ozarks and actually in the United States that has lost momentum but that is coming back is the church.
Oh yes.
Now I know that people are like, oh, the church. Well, yeah, that in every town you're gonna see one of those buildings, but they're realizing, oh, it's not the building.
I was raised in a small church in Mississippi, a small Baptist church, and there, yes, it was nowhere near a perfect church. I don't think one exists, but I did learn some fundamentals there that I'm grateful for, and those fundamentals I think were kind of lost for a while, and I think some people are searching for those fundamentals again.
I agree with that 100%, and that's reflected in these paintings. And I even see another one here. It's fiddling around in the shade. And can you kind of describe that one? And was that inspired? Were you out fishing and something crazy happened, or?
Well, I mean, usually when I do a lot of these pieces of art, there's something personal that I'm putting in them. That I'm not just blindly creating a piece of art. I have a personal story in some way to most everything I create, and that one is no exception. The fiddling around in the shade was something I put together for the event when we had the eclipse come through here. And I just thought of blending a few things that I always thought were unique. I always liked the whole tongue-in-cheek idea of Sasquatch kind of wanting to hang around people. So I drew up a Sasquatch in an old John boat with a little frog.
I thought that was my uncle.
But it's just something that I did to commemorate that event, and it's more along the lines of what I do usually on apparel. So it's a little more illustrative. But yeah, that was fun. That was just kind of a one-time thing, and the radio station was really, really great here at KWMV to help promote those.
Joe Hart.
Joe Hart and Al here were great in helping try to sell some of those. And we were giving money back to the radio station because of their help with that.
Alice and Randy and
it was a neat experience. It actually was a way for me to get to know some of these people that I haven't met yet, and I like working with people in the community. I know this is a small town and it's kind of a closed community, but I come from one of those. So the little town I grew up in, Mississippi, it was called Horn Lake, Mississippi. And when we moved there, when I was 4 years old, all the roads were gravel. And so it was a little bitty town. So I know what it's like in small towns where people are suspicious of folks from outside, and it takes a while to gain trust and interest. But once you do gain someone's trust or someone's friendship, it's usually pretty solid because it's not something that comes easy.
Yeah. And we know you're from off.
Yes, I am from off.
And people say that like it's an awful thing, but actually Mountain View is made up of from off. And some of them have been here a long time. And yes, the old timers might still look at you as from off, but it doesn't take long before you melt into the community. This is a true melting pot.
It is.
You melt into the community and become a part of it, and it's so exciting. Well, Gary Roan is here with me in the studio. This is KWMV 88.5 FM Mountain View, and we're very thankful that you were able to come in.
Yeah.
And do you want to give a shout out to anybody? You can do that right now.
Well, man, if you're going to give me a chance, I'm going to tell my beautiful, lovely wife that I love her.
He loves you, man. He loves you, man.
If I get a shout out, that's really the only one that I'm gonna shout out to.
That is the key of a small community.
She's my biggest fan, man.
The women are the backbone. they make it happen. Hey, thank you so much for coming in
Hey, it was great talking to you.
and stopping in here at the KWMV station on Old 66 here. And great talking to you. And don't forget, go to Gary Roan's Facebook. And you
Yeah,
want
I'm-
to shout out those other locations?
Yeah, I'm
where
on
they can see
I'm
her?
on Facebook under my name, Gary Roan, GarryRone. I'm on YouTube under Stillwater Design Solutions. That's my business name. I also have a business website. It's stillwater-designs.com. But that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. But I'm pretty open. I love talking to people. If there's anything I can do for folks, just reach out to me.
All right, thank you.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Broadcasting from the McSpadden Dulcimer Shop Studios, downtown Mountain View, Arkansas, this is KWMV.